Are you looking for some hard-boiled, true detective noir thriller discussions? Well, you found it here on the Crime and Mystery Podcast.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery. I'm Al Warren. Mr. Dave Martino is back.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Back for the attack.
I'm just seeing you once a week. Like, what's going on? Are you seeing another radio person?
Not that anybody knows. I'm under an assumed name. No.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, have you watched that Netflix movie that's getting all the attention now, or series, that reindeer one?
No.
The one, all the controversy, and now I guess the woman that supposed to be based on a true story, and the one character that's in it, the female and the main character, has come out saying that it was all lies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was on Pierce Morgan, my buddy Pierce. I like Pierce. And he got that one. And anyway, so it's just kind of weird. Said she'd never been arrested and never been to jail or any of that stuff. And there you go.
Yeah.
See,
you're doing something new every day.
Yeah. Not that you care, but it's just.
Of course I care.
Yeah, you care.
Yeah.
I know how much you care. You care about your cat, and that's about it. Right?
That's it.
Hollywood's an interesting place. So.
Oh, yes.
Well,
I see where you're leading this to.
Yeah.
Nice segue.
Well, I was trying to, but you're not helping here. You're fighting against me. I don't know.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Like the ocean.
Yeah, like the ocean. The tide is
out.
Well, listen, so we're going to talk Starstruck. And it's not people meeting me, which they always are, but it's a Hollywood mystery, and it's book 2 of a mystery series. And we've got Marjorie McCown. So thank you for being here, Marjorie.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Well, Marjorie, what's going on here? You've got a Hollywood mystery, and this is book 2. So let's start out. What's the premise of the Hollywood mystery, the whole series?
Okay. Well, I'm a former costume designer and costumer for feature films, and the Hollywood Mystery Series is set behind the scenes of movies in production, of the entire movie industry, with the main character who is, spoiler alert, a key costumer for films. So my inspiration behind the books was really to take readers on an insider's guided tour, kind of, into the everyday working world of movies and production, as opposed to what they see on the red carpet, which is what most people know about, and to sort of shine a light on the crew and all the different jobs that go into hundreds of different jobs by highly trained people, utilizing all kinds of talents and skills that, are just part of the movie making process. So Final Cut, the first book in the series, Joey stumbles over the body of a murdered coworker on the beach in Malibu where they're shooting a new superhero movie. And she immediately becomes a suspect because not only did she find the body, but the victim was seeing her ex. So she's drawn into the murder investigation because she's under the spotlight by the police and social media. She's being abused from every corner, and she is a problem solver. That's what she does. That's part of her skill set, is problem solving. And so she digs into the investigation out of self-interest to try and clear her name and save her career, and ultimately ends up saving her own life. And then in Starstruck, book number 2, Joey's working on a movie with 2 of the biggest box office stars in the world. Although the leading lady, Gillian, is known more for her lifestyle brand than her acting. And then after a fatal traffic accident near the movie set in downtown Los Angeles, Joey realizes that the car involved belongs to Gillian. And she starts to wonder if the actress has more to hide than her Botox appointments. So that's kind of the setup for the series and the two books so far in the series.
Right. Kind of sounds like Dave there and his Botox.
Yeah.
he's pretty regular at all that, I don't know.
I'm having that done right now.
Yeah. That's
multitasking.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got a membership. They do something every day.
Yeah.
Cheeks, forehead, lips, You know, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, punch a card, and after 10 trips, you get one for free.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I won't tell you where they get that injection, but that's, you know, could be trouble. That kicked me off. So how do you get the ideas about this? Like, cause it's a mystery. It's kind of cozy. So it's not a violent murder, but it's still a mystery, and they come across a body and stuff. Did you have real experiences in your career with the movie sets and stuff where did they turn up dead and stuff like that?
You know, it is fiction, and there are both true and fictional elements in the books. And no, I have never actually stumbled across a body, nor have any of my colleagues died on the job, which I'm very grateful for. But yes, some of the key story points and the action in both books, and particularly in Starstruck, are based on some of my experiences on movie sets in general, and for Starstruck on The Aviator in particular. Although there was no Gillian Best on The Aviator. We only had nice people in the cast, and that's the truth.
Yeah, you say that now. Off air, you can tell me. You know, I mean, I want to hear some gossip here. So your main character, Joey Jessop, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's the same job that you were doing and stuff like that, I can see you have a lot of insight in that. But who is Joey Jessop to you? Like, how do you relate to that character? Is it, what kind of relationship do you have?
Oh, that's a good question. I think of Joey a lot like most of my characters, although I suppose I have a longer, stronger relationship with her. I guess I'd look at her as a friend, maybe it's somebody I would mentor. Although Joey and I do share a skill set, she's quite a bit younger than I am, and she would be someone I would mentor in the industry. Especially in the costume community, there's a very strong commitment to mentoring other people coming up, because there's really no way to learn how to do any element of a feature film, in my opinion, but certainly not costumes for a feature film. You can't learn that at a desk or in a classroom. There's no way to learn it except on the job. So there's a very strong tune of mentoring.
No cat fighting or any of that stuff?
There's in anything involving human beings, there's always going to be elements of competition and a disagreement, certainly, and especially, people even working behind the scenes in films, they're all type A personalities and have very strong opinions and a lot of drive. I think in some ways you almost have to be an adrenaline junkie to work on feature films effectively. But that doesn't mean that they're combative. And it's a job. Making a movie is a team effort. It's certainly the epitome of collaboration when it works well, which it almost never does perfectly. But you can't do it without the people on your team. And, I know that sounds a little rah-rah, but it's absolutely true. No one person can put together a movie with 100 speaking parts and 10,000 background without help from somebody else. So, it's in your best interest to work well with others.
Well, that begs the question, what's a typical day like on set? If there is a typical day.
There is no typical day. That's part of what I really loved about film, is that, first of all, every movie is its own separate world. Every movie company is a unique community with its own set of relationships and whatever's going on. And the movie itself, it depends on whether it's contemporary, period, fantasy, where it's shooting. Is it shooting mainly on stage? Is it shooting on the streets of Los Angeles? Are you going to South Carolina or Atlanta or Vancouver? Or are you going to Budapest to shoot? So every day is different. And that makes it interesting. And it's also very challenging, because film is, I think, probably one of the most fluid working situations you can encounter, because literally anything can happen and change at any time, and often does. When we were shooting Forrest Gump in South Carolina, I remember one day we got 75 new pages of the screenplay that came through the fax machine, which doesn't mean that the entire screenplay changes. Screenplay is about 125 pages generally. It doesn't mean that the entire screenplay changed that day, but on each of those 75 pages, there was a change we needed to pay attention to and collate and check with the rest of our script and our costume breakdown and our shooting schedule and make sure that everything we'd prepped was still correct and that we weren't missing something we needed to do that we had no idea had just come through on those pages. So that's just one example of what can happen. And I suppose the typical day, if you're going to have a typical day, is you show up at the trailer, which even if you're working on the studio lot at someplace like Paramount, you're going to have your trailer that travels with you because at some point on a big movie, it's going to have to go someplace else. So you have your mobile headquarters that are always there with all the costumes for the principal characters, the speaking parts on one trailer. And then you always travel with a stock of costumes that you can put on background players or get into if you need to, quick for something that's come up. And so you get there, you have your call sheet, which tells you who's working that day and what's going to be shot that day, which you've already prepped because you know from the shooting schedule that that's what's going to be on the call sheet today. You get everybody dressed, you get all the rooms set for the actors with what they're going to wear that day. The principal costumers do that. And then you start getting the background dressed. Whatever that is, if you have background that day, you almost always have background, and it just is a matter. If you have a few pedestrians walking on the street, for example, or if you have a horde of Mongols that you have to put in leather armor. I mean, it just depends on what you're doing. And then you get everybody dressed and you get ready for the first shot, and then you get into your day. And the people like that are on the design team for the costume department, which is the costume designer, assistant costume designer, key costumer, will start the day on set, make sure everything is ready for the first shot. And as long as there isn't something big being established, which means being shot for the first time later in the day, then they'll split off and go back to the department and start getting ready for everything else that's coming up on the schedule, because there is no time to get an entire movie prepped in pre-production. I don't care if you've got 6 months, whatever the time is, it's never enough to prep everything, especially if you don't get casting in a timely way, which is a whole different story. But so they'll go off to prep whatever's coming up to fit whoever needs to be fit for what's coming up. You try and work at least 2 weeks ahead of the shooting schedule. You don't always succeed, but that's always the goal. I don't know if that answers the question, but.
So the person that's found dead, who are they really in your life? We want some names and maybe a phone number, and we'll call them and get them on the line and see if you guys can hash it out here. Like, who did you kill off in this?
In Starstruck?
Yeah.
Well, because you always have to kill some. I mean, it's a murder mystery, right? Somebody has to die. In Starstruck, there are actually two people who end up, unfortunately dead in an untimely way. One is an accident victim whom Joey, and it's nobody I know. Although, no, it's the inciting incident, as they say in literary circles, for the book, but it was based on something I actually witnessed in downtown Los Angeles, and that was a girl I didn't know, dashing barefoot through traffic on Lower Broadway, through rush hour traffic. And, those of us who were there just like sort of stopped and watched in horror and held our breath. And this girl made it across the street. I don't know. Nobody seemed to be chasing her. I still don't know why she was running. That's in the first chapter of Starstruck. And what happens in the book, the way I put it in there, is that Joey, they're shooting in downtown Los Angeles around the Ace Hotel, which is a landmark hotel world that has been restored from its to its Art Deco former glory and is used by a lot of film locations for movies that are being shot in the 1920s and 30s. So they're at that location, but in downtown Los Angeles, in that part of town, there are a lot of homeless encampments now. So they're set up to do this very glamorous movie at this location in the midst of a lot of people who were living unhomed on the streets. And she goes across from base camp is in one of the parking lots on Lower Broadway. She goes across the street to get some soup from a bodega across the street, and it's sort of before dinner time. Nobody's there except her as a customer. And all of a sudden, this girl bursts through the back of the kitchen, and she's being chased by this big guy, and she looks at Joey and says, "Ayúdame, help me." And Joey's like, "Oh my God." The guy grabs her and drags her back through the door. And Joey says, "Wait, you can't stop him." And the owner of the bodega grabs a sawed-off baseball bat off the counter behind him, and he says, "Get out of here." And she does. She is intimidated. She doesn't really know what's happening. So she just goes back through the front door and immediately regrets it. But she isn't sure what she should do. She doesn't know what was going on. She calls the cops. What can she tell them? Blah, blah, blah. At that point, they call, she gets the word that the actors are being placed for the first shot of the night because they're working nights. And she starts walking with one of her costumers up the street, and this girl bursts out of the restaurant across the street, runs into traffic, and is hit and killed. And so that's the beginning of the book.
No soup for you.
And nice. Very nice. You're all heart. No. No, and so she's like, "Oh my God." And she feels guilty. She doesn't know what she just feels guilty about the thing because she feels like if she just put out her hands to the girl, that maybe things would have been different. Maybe she wouldn't have been running through traffic. And then the accident, of course, messes up all their shooting because there's this huge, lights and emergency vehicles and investigation, right down the street. And they're doing some exterior shots as well, or we're supposed to, until all the emergency vehicles show up for this accident investigation. And she realizes at some point during the accident investigation, the SUV that hit the girl is a vehicle that belongs to the leading lady in the movie, even though clearly she wasn't driving. But still, she recognizes it because it's very distinctive in ways I won't go into right now. And so that just piques her curiosity as well as her guilt. And that, is the impetus for some of the stuff that happens later in the book. But then there's another person who ends up possibly her death is labeled a suicide. The personal assistant for the leading lady then is found dead a few days later, and supposedly a suicide, but Joey has doubts about that as well for reasons, again, to be revealed in the book.
So the girl that was running across the road, was that Lindsay Lohan, and was it Cate Blanchett's car?
I would never do that to Cate Blanchett. I love Cate Blanchett beyond
lovely lady.
Lovely lady. I've worked with her twice. She is salt of the earth people, and she's a brilliant actress and one of the most collaborative stars I've ever worked with. So I cannot say anything but great words about the great Cate Blanchett.
Yeah, she's great. Doesn't mean she was driving, but was it Lindsay Lohan that was running across the road? See, Lindsay Lohan, that's a perfect cast.
Lindsay Lohan, is she even in Hollywood anymore?
No, I don't know, because the last I heard she was over in she was in the Arab country, UA, and she opened up a bar with a guy she met.
Oh dear.
Doesn't that sound fun? And then all of a sudden.
And what a location for that.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden she's now back in America. So I don't know what happened.
No, she's
that's why she'd be perfect in that role.
Never met her, and I wish her well, but I have no opinions.
No, of course not. That's me. I'm causing trouble.
Yeah, you are. I think that's your job, though, right?
That's my job. Get some stuff going on here. Well, so when you write this, is this purely entertainment? Are you just having fun and putting together, and you hope people will have a good time?
Yeah.
You know, you don't have any sort of subtext or anything. There's not like a meaning or anything under it, or is there?
Well, beach read is my goal. If someone says this is a good beach read, I'm going to say thank you very much. So entertainment is my primary goal. I want to tell a good story. I want to read a good story. So I'm hoping that there's a little more going on. I love puzzles. I hope there are a couple puzzles in there that people will go, I don't know. I want to read this to find out what really happened. I mean, that's so, and yes, I do in this, because I thought about this a lot while I was working in film in general, but it's not like any major social theme, but whatever. The contrast between the millions of dollars that are being spent to make this film, recreating the most glamorous period of Hollywood, and it's being shot in the midst of the squalor of a homeless encampment in downtown LA. I mean, I think there are people, we're all struggling in some ways, some more obviously than others, but I think if it's about anything, it's about people who are struggling to just find themselves, find a better way to live. And that sounds so elevated. I don't mean it that way at all, but I'm just going to go back to what I was saying before. Primarily entertainment, puzzles to solve, hopefully some characters that you're going to be glad to meet and spend some time with. And that's really the goal of the books.
That's it. What do you get out of writing one of these books? Like, how is the experience on you? What do you get out of it?
I love doing it. I mean, I have a really great time doing it. I wanted to be a writer ever since I was a kid, but I diverted into theater, and I worked in New York in theater and opera for about 13 years before I started to work in Hollywood. I worked with some wonderful, brilliant people there. I loved opera. Beverly Sills was one of my early mentors. I designed for New York City Opera. But then I decided it would be really remiss of me if I didn't learn about film. It's just, practically speaking, it's more lucrative. And so I came out to Los Angeles and I brought my portfolio, wrote to 5 designers who had theatrical backgrounds and I thought might be open to listening to my experience. Just said, I'm here in town. I want to learn about film. Would you talk to me? And one of them was Ruth Myers, and she was about to start principal photography on the first Addams Family. So I went over to Hollywood Center Studios to meet with her. She looked at my portfolio and she said, well, can you start tomorrow? And so 2 weeks after I got out here, and she and Albert Wolski, who is like an iconic American theatrical and costume designer, he won an Oscar for All That Jazz. And they went to the union and they said, here's a woman that we'd like to work with. And she is already a member of the unions back in the East, United Scenic Artists and the Wardrobe Union in New York. And so the 2 weeks I was in the union, I was working on the Addams Family, and I took it as a sign, and I worked for the next 27 years in film and really came to like it very, very much. And so you asked me about the books. What I like about costume design that it's really about storytelling. That's what makes it different from fashion design. Fashion is all about satisfying the taste of the marketplace and figuring out what women are going to want to wear next spring. And I don't care about that at all. But I love, if a costume designer is really doing their job to the best of their ability, they're a social anthropologist, and they will look at these characters in this story that is being told, look at their lives, look at the period in history, and figure out the best way to help support that character through the choices of clothing that they wear and how that clothing is treated in terms of wear and tear. Is it Napoleon? Are you recreating the coronation of Napoleon, or are you telling a story about miners in the gold rush who wear the same pair of denim pants for a month and are sluicing gold? So all of those things come into the job. And that's what makes costume design interesting to me, is because you're part of the storytelling process. And so that's what makes the transition to writing feel seamless to me, because I'm telling a story in a different way. And honestly, my design and writing processes start out very similarly, because for design, we always start out with research boards, the images that we collage together that provide historical background or just some kind of inspiration about the story, about the world of the movie that we're designing, and also the specific characters that we're trying to bring to life. And when we were doing The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, we had our entire design office papered, literally papered all over with these walls of research boards. And every time Brad Pitt would come in for his fitting, he would come 15 minutes early so he could stand and look at what we had newly posted, or just look at something different and on our design boards in the costume office. He called it the laboratory. When I'm writing, I start out the same way. I start out with inspiration boards of images that I collage together that resonate for me in some way, that either something about the environment I'm trying to create in the story, or the characters, or something that I feel will help me develop my ideas into a cohesive piece of work. I use those design boards for inspiration throughout the writing process, and I am a big outliner, so at some point I do have to put words on paper if I'm writing. So I start with a big, long outline that's pretty detailed, although as you do in film, I'll deviate from it if it seems like the story is taking me someplace else. And I use that outline almost like a roadmap, almost like the daily shot list for camera setups on a movie. And the whole time I'm writing the book, I have the movie version playing in my head, because I have learned that if I can't visualize a scene in granular detail, I can't write it.
Well, speaking of design boards,
Ah.
Is that the way you also keep track of your continuity in the series, or do you have another system?
Yeah, system. That would be a generous adjective. I don't really have a system. I have files that I keep. I do, especially for all the main characters, I've written their biographies, and then I'll start files for them that are images. Like Joey lives in a trailer park in Malibu on the beach. And so I have her trailer park and the place she lives, in a file along with her biography. Continuity, you'd think I'd be really on top of continuity, since it's such an important part of the movie process. And I at this point rely on my editing. And if I think that as I'm going through the book, I continue to do light edits as I go, so that I hope that, I refresh my memory of what's gone before. And I do have my outline. And if I deviate from that, I do make notes about that. So that's a check too. But if I have a real question about something, I go into, search and type in what I'm looking for and see if I've already covered that, or if I have gotten a name wrong or a description wrong or something like that. I mean, it's very primitive, to be honest, my continuity, quote unquote, process for writing.
What do you find that keeps you reading a book? Like, what's a good book to you?
That has changed so much over the years. Really, truly, what keeps me, I don't have as long an attention span as I used to. But if I like the characters, I'll keep reading the book, even if, they're fixing breakfast for 2 pages. It's the characters for me most of all. But then I love, a book that I read recently that was written last year that I think is just great, good fun, well written, great characters, also a great story, the trifecta, is The Spy Coast by Tess Gerritsen. And it's about a group of retired spies on the coast of Maine. And because of a job that went wrong 16 years ago, they're drawn back into the life. And it's a great story. It really is a good thriller. But what keeps me reading that, and what will keep me going back for the sequel to that book, are the characters and their relationships.
Do you like to interact with readers? Do you like getting reviews? Do you have
I don't.
social media accounts that you do?
Almighty, don't we all? I mean,
Yeah, but
yeah.
sometimes people are private, and some people have both. Like they'll have an author page, and then they'll have their own family sort of friend page and stuff.
I do. I have both, but I was pushed into having an author page by someone I went to help me with marketing and publicity, because even though I come from the world of film, you'd think that, I'd be more savvy about that whole thing. But I'm a designer. I never had anything to do with marketing. I mean, I know it's important. Of course I know it's important, but I just have no skill set there. So.
Well, I have Lindsay Lohan's number if you want. She's really great.
She's done a grand job.
She's done a marvelous. Yeah, she's
That's
really
something to aspire to. Probably so people would snap up your books if you had that kind of profile, right?
I know. Dave does it, and you should see him. He's like a international bestseller. They chase him down.
Oh yeah,
it's just incredible. We have to keep him in hiding.
It's like the Beatles, right?
Yeah. He's like the Beatles. He flies to a city, and there's like all these girls throwing their underwear at him. And
oh well, what a life! That's got to be.
Yeah, like Tom Jones,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're dating yourself there.
Well, young Tom Jones.
Yeah.
This generation's Tom Jones.
Yeah. He's like a male Lady Gaga.
There you go. That works. Yeah. So I do have all of that. And it's, I actually do like interacting with readers because I find I'm interested in people. I like people. I don't really read my reviews, because I'm just, I'm too neurotic. So, and if you believe the good ones, you have to believe the bad ones. So it's best just to let people, and and everybody's entitled to their opinion. Not everybody is going to be a reader. So, that's life in the big city. But yeah, I don't, but I do like engaging with readers. I love doing in-person events, and I have, again, under duress, written a newsletter. It's turned out to be something I really enjoy because I get response from the newsletter subscribers, and that's fun. I mean, one of the things that I really was hoping for when I did make the transition from costuming to writing, because in movies, in theater and movies, you have this big built-in creative community around you just by virtue of having a job. Just by going to work every day, you have creative community surrounding you at all times. And so I really hoped to find a way to become part of a new creative community when I got into writing. But, since it is, you sit at the computer and with your imaginary characters, and, if you don't want to interact with people, you certainly don't have to. But I like the opportunity to talk to other people about books, about their, I like talking to other authors. I like supporting other authors about their work. I mean, that's part of what makes it fun, is to engage with other people, although not some, like the dinner at Left Coast Crime. I was really glad to sit next to you and visit with you. That's not the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's like, authentic conversations with people.
Unlike with me.
Oh, not that. No. That's right. That's why I was pulling that out of the entire experience, because I did enjoy that conversation that we had where we talked about your 19-year-old Jack Russells. I mean, that's the kind of thing I like.
Well, so listen, in this series, did you already know ahead of time how many books you were going to do, or where you're going to go with this? Do you kind of have that, or you don't have it all mapped out?
No, I do have a big long outline sitting, waiting for the third, with the working title of Shot List. No, I don't, because, well, for a number of reasons. Not all of the decision is going to be up to me about how many books, certainly. All I've ever done is costumes. From the time I graduated from college until I retired from film in 2017, I never had any other job. Coming into this, I'm really looking at it, which it is completely a new experience. and an opportunity to learn and meet lots of new people, learn. Oh my gosh, I still have so much to learn. I didn't realize what a steep learning curve I have, but, and it's a new adventure, and I'm trying to embrace part of it because I am kind of a control freak in lots of ways. And, that served me well in my other career. It's good to be a control freak when you have a million literally details to take care of in preparing a big movie, the costumes for a big movie. I'm trying to look at this differently and be just a little bit open-minded about, letting the universe have some say in what, not like I have the choice anyway, but embracing that concept that, I don't know what's going to happen. And maybe that's okay for a while.
So what do you think people get wrong about that kind of business of costumers and designs and stuff like that in these shows? Do you think people pretty much know?
What shows are about costume designers? I've never seen.
No, I haven't either. But do you think that people understand what that job is?
No. And why, and I don't say that with any kind of disdain. Why should they? It's not something, if we do our jobs well, we're a seamless part of the story, and we're not in front of the camera, and nobody buys tickets to a movie, much to my chagrin, because of the costume design. So and that was part of it too. I hope that for some readers, at least, it will be something that will draw them to the books because, as I said, it does show them a side of Hollywood that they're not going to get someplace else. And I think, although I may be in the minority, that what goes on behind the scenes on some of these big movies is sometimes every bit as interesting as anything we put on screen. It's a very, very, making a big movie is very much like a military campaign, and it takes that many people. Well, there's a quote from Orson Welles that says, a writer needs a pen, an artist needs a brush, but a filmmaker needs an army. And that's really true. And also they have to operate with that kind of precision too in order to put something vaguely watchable up on screen. I just hope and that's a balance I try to hit when I'm writing too, because I do know, every single detail about what a costumer has to do. And not everybody's, nobody else is it. And my costume community really loves that, as a matter of fact, but not everybody's going to. So I try and hit a balance where I'm giving readers, hopefully some, fingers crossed, interesting information that's also new to them, but that doesn't bog down the pace of the story. So, because, the story needs to keep moving. If people need to keep wanting to turn the pages if they're going to get through the book. So that's another line I'm learning to walk and a balance I'm trying to hit with it.
Well, interesting.
Well, thank you.
Do you have contact information, website? Do you have places you want people to come find you?
Sure. I have a website, MarjorieMcCown.com. And all of my social media links are on there too. And if somebody wants to, there's also a link to sign up for the newsletter there. And if you do sign up for my newsletter, you'll get to read the first chapter of Starstruck for free.
Well, there you go. What more could you ask for? Holy cow.
Well, we could come up with a list, I'm sure, but.
Yeah, but, come on. People get, a date with Lindsay Lohan there. I'm picking on that girl. That's terrible. They're going to come after me for
poor
that,
young lady. Oh, my God.
Well, I don't know if she's that young.
Well, or poor, for that matter.
Yeah. Well, who knows, It's been
true enough. True enough.
So before we go, any gossip on anybody we need to know that you work with? Any inside dish?
A dish.
Yeah.
No,
well,
there's a story that I like to tell about Dustin Hoffman that happened many years ago, but I still think it's a sweet story. When we did Wag the Dog, the day after his first fitting, we thought we'd done a pretty good job. We came into our costume office the next day, and there were three of us, and there were 3 vases with 3 dozen white roses, one on each of our desks, with a note from Dustin that said, You found my character for me. And I would say that's one of the high points of my career in costuming, because that's the best compliment a designer can get, is to have an actor say that.
Well,
So that's not exactly gossip, but
no. Well, it sounds
it's
like
not gossip at all, but.
Yeah. Dave, get on it. Send some roses. Get this going.
All right.
Well, we appreciate you being here.
Oh, aren't you kind? Well, it's really a pleasure to talk to both of you, and I really thank you for having me on your show.
Of course, it's a pleasure. And it's a Hollywood mystery, and we were talking about both books, but book 2 is Starstruck. And, of course, we've got Marjorie McCown. So thank you for being here.
Thank you both, Alan and Dave.
Thanks, Marjorie.
This has been a production of the House of Mystery Radio Show. To find out more about our show, guests, or hosts, go to our website at houseofmysteryradio.com.